Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to your session for Design Your Career Abroad. So, who all are there today? Who all are there today? Welcome to your session for Design Your Career Abroad. So, who all are there today? Who all are there today? Welcome. Okay, so we have Manish with us today. Hi Manish, welcome to the session. So, who all are there? Just drop a hi and let me know that you're there. Just drop a hi and let me know. Drop a hi and let me know, and we will get started. So in the group, we had almost 85 people from joining from different parts of the world. So we are live and we are waiting for you on Facebook. The page is Design Your Career Abroad's live, and we will be doing a lot of exciting stuff today. We are live and we are waiting for you on Facebook. The page is Design Your Career Abroad's live, and we will be doing a lot of exciting stuff today. Great. So, as people are joining in, um, let me quickly take you through the content of the session today. So we have Arnav Kaustav joining us from two different parts of the world. Arnav is joining from Dubai, and Kaustav is there with us from Sydney. So welcome both of you. And before I start, I will just check if everybody is able to hear me. Am I loud and clear? People on Facebook, just drop a hi so that I know that I'm loud and clear. Okay, so we have Bhanuja, we have Sandeep, okay, and we have Manish, we have Sandeep Kumar. Hi, Amir, right? So, which country or which city are you from? Just drop a hi and just let me know which city are you from and from where you have joined this session, right? Yeah. For some reasons, I'm not able to see the comments at the back end, but at the front end, I can. Hi, Kritika. Welcome. Welcome to the session. Okay, so let's get started. So I'm loud and clear to all of you, and all of you can see my screen. Just drop a thumbs up. Drop a thumbs up so that I know and I can proceed. Just drop a thumbs up. Yep, Priyanka, welcome to the session. Just quickly drop a thumbs up. So this is going to be a kind of a hands-on, workshop where we are going to share what's happening in the world, our personal experience, and answer your questions. Some of you have answered it, but that's absolutely fine. Some of you want to ask right now, right? Yeah. Okay. So, without making anybody wait, let's get started. So, I'm really, really excited to do this session for all of you because, as a part of Design Careers, being the founder, I'll talk about myself. I've been doing it for rest of the professions, like for IT, for HR, and people are moving abroad, like, from one country to another country, and that's a fun of life. But I'm very lucky that Arnav and Kaustov have been ready to be there and mentor and share their career journey on how they have done it. And this is the first. This is, you all should know, this is the first time ever that they are doing it. And people coming live, Indians living abroad, working abroad, and then the real stories are being shared with you online, right? So be excited, right? Yeah. So what we're going to do is that a lot of questions came. Is this the IT architecture or the physical architecture? Because the term architecture is also there in IT, right? But this is no. This is for brick and mortar architects. So first and most important is that we are going to understand where, like when we talk about our career abroad, where it is, where it means in terms of the flow of people, opportunities, and money and growth, right? So we will be looking at the real picture, some big numbers, and those are very, very important, right? Yeah. And Arnav is going to take us through that. And then what does it mean to design a career? It's not easy, right? So Kostav is going to share his experience from, starting from Kolkata to US to Hong Kong, and then to Australia. In the same way, Arnav from Kolkata to Delhi SPA to London, being a Commonwealth Scholar, to Architectural Association, back in India working for MNC, then in Dubai, right? So this entire movement between all the different continents is what you're going to get, and they're going to bring experiences from 5 continents, right? In 3 top architectural process practices like HOK, BTP, Grimshaw, and all that, Canon Design, and I personally worked in AECOM, okay, and 15 plus years of foreign experience, kind of cumulative. It's actually more, but that's what they are going to. I'm just talking about foreign experience, non-Indian experience, and almost like 10 plus awards. So Nava is a speaks in visuals, so you'll see him mostly like talking things in visuals, and both of them are artists at heart. They're amazing in watercolors and sketches, and they had almost like 10 plus awards. Name any award that is given in a student level, NASA, Zonasa, Pixart, Isocarp, everything. So cumulatively they have it in their kitty. And Arnav has been a gold medalist from Jadavpur University, then a gold medalist from SPA, then a Commonwealth Scholar from and he went to Architectural Association, London. And I can go on, like you guys, I'll give you the link. You can go in their resume and can look up. And the best part is both of them have evolved as a mentor. When you get something and it's hard earned, you really have to get, like, we are ordinary people. None of us were born with silver spoon. It's hard earned. 16, 17, 18 hours of working day and night, creative work, like, and being having an Indian passport. You want to give when you have done that, like, so the hashtag which Design Careers follows is grow to give, and both of them are an embodiment of the same. So 10 plus legacy. So that's what people talk about them. So Asim Manna has known Arna for since 2012, like, and he has been mentored by Arnav in his professional journey in working in the top, Fortune 500 MNC, and now also getting into a PhD program. He strongly recommends Ashim. Thank you so much, Ashim. Sanjeev is been to Cardiff University and worked in international development. And he also strongly recommends Arnav when he gave his feedback on the SOPs in the portfolio, right? He currently is a academician in one of the top schools. Devan has recently moved to UK and he's a scholar. He's a Commonwealth scholar like Arnav, and he got immense help in his portfolio and SOP during this journey. And Jody talks highly about Kostov because within the studio and outside the studio, he shows a lot of talent. And not only what he does impacts the 16 students which were them with him in the studio, and wherever he goes he really really pulls the entire studio and brings the best out of them. So that's what, like, there are more in our Facebook page, and that's me. So welcome Anjali, welcome Maria, welcome Maria Shamshi, I like the name. Mayuk, right? And anybody else is there, just drop a hi and let me know that you are there. So that's me. I'm Divishi, and I am also an architect, urban designer, and quickly tell you my story. So you can see the girl in white beard. That's me. I was a very creative and a naughty girl. When I was growing up in Kolkata, I happened to be nurtured in an environment where the writings of Satyajit Ray and meeting Mother Teresa changed my life. And I became a Commonwealth Scholar in 2008, 2008-9, and I graduated from UCL London, Gandhiji's college. And then I worked with a Fortune 400 organization, all the places that you see red, I've lived and worked. And this would be red soon. Hi Akash, hi Priyanka. And currently, I am the founder of an educational startup called Design Careers, where I live in Gurgaon and impact the world. And that's my resume. So, a lot of people come to me for making their infographic resumes. I've trained almost 10,000 people, right? And that's what I'm up to. Hashtag grow to give. You'll find me. I want to design 90 lakh careers by 2025. And, and and I'm happy to share yesterday I won a national level award for the same Her Rising Award for Education. And I was awarded yesterday. Is that wow? Are you inspired? Just drop an inspired in the comment box. Drop an inspired in the comment box. Akash, Ishani, just drop an inspired in the comment box if you're feeling what we are feeling right now. The career design doesn't is not a boring process, cannot really happen. Yeah, so drop an inspired if you are really, really, really feeling now. Yeah, thanks for the congratulations. Drop the word inspired. I want you to be touched by, the fire that is in me, that is in all of us. And that's what actually leads us to the career story. So that was our story. But this session is not about us, it's about you. So, are you hungry, Bhanuja? Are you hungry, Sonika? Are you hungry, Kanchan? Like, are you hungry? So, the world moves for hungry people. So, let's get started. Yeah. So, what we're going to do is that we're going to decide again where the money is, where the flow is, where the people are going, and what does it mean? What does it look like? Right? Yeah. And little question answers on some of the questions that we have and others, and how you can engage with us and do more about it. Thank you, Akash. Right. So I would now quickly hand it over to Arnav. But before I do you guys want to see his portfolio? Do you guys want to see his portfolio? Right? Yeah. So if you want, just write bring it on, BOI. Just type in bring it on, and I will show his portfolio. And if you don't want, it's okay. If you want to see his portfolio, just type bring it on, BOI. Type BOI, BOI. Type BOI. No, I don't want an yes. I want a BOI. If you want to see his portfolio, I don't see you guys that interested. No, 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 no. I didn't ask for a yes. So you have to work on your listening. BOI. Type BOI. Bring it on. Right, Arnav? See, people are interested. So Arnav is somebody who speaks through visuals. So let me show the visuals so that that really justifies who he is. Yes, Akash, I like it. BOI. Bring it on. Now, here is it. Good. So that's his sketch. That's Arnav Sarkar. So this is his academic portfolio. All of you should understand the academic portfolio is very different from a professional portfolio. We'll just see that. So his academic portfolio in his semester, I don't know which semester, in SPA, School of Planning and Architecture. Another project I'll quickly go through. So things that you need to look at is that you can ask questions, how did he do it? Like merging Sketch with SketchUp, with Revit, with 3D Max. So this is like 2003. So that time like Revit was not that popular. So how these things were done. And Kostov will talk about the importance of using different softwares, things which are not used, right? Sketches merging with SketchUp and the plan and elevation, right? Yeah. Arnav is somebody who used to take the design studio in SPA also briefly when he was in India, right? Sketches, sketches and 3D models, and he used his mother's, bindi. Can you see this red dots? Those were his mother's bindi, right? Yep. And you will see the evolution on how things changes. Kostov is also going to show the evolution. So this is like, early 2000, early 2000. I'm quickly going to go through early 2000, like, this is still early 2000. That's the academic portfolio. I can go on and on. It's long. It's really long, right? This is commercial building. Now, this is 2000, I think, 4 when he won a thesis. 2005, he won the gold medal for this thesis. And he also went to London, went to Spain by winning an ISOCARP award, real-time models, right? Beginning of his profession. Can you see the moment the professional work starts? It's simplistic. This is with morphogenesis. This is simplistic design. He can explain more, but we'll do another session on that. A sneak peek into it. Right. Okay, I can go on and on and on and on. And that's his resume, 2004, 2005. Okay, pretty. Now it's not going to look like that. Got it? Yep. Very quickly, we'll also see Kostov is also going to show, and then quickly going through his professional portfolio. Right. Yeah. And we don't want to see the advertisements. So that was academic. Okay. And this is the professional. Can you see the difference? Can you see the difference? So I'm not going to get into the detail of the projects, but yep, these are the professional work. Right. Okay. I believe in keeping people hungry. So I will hand it over. Arnav, can you share your screen? I'll hand it over to Arnav to take through the rest and tell you about where is the flow. Where do you want to go? Where is the flow? Right? Yeah. Okay. Over to you, Arnav. Yes.
Thank you, Deveshi, and first of all, congratulations for the award. It's a amazing thing that you had been able to design smart people after switching from designing smart cities. So it's an inspiration from for all of us as well. And thank you for giving us a platform to share our experience and observations about the architecture and the way the profession is moving as such. First
Yes,
thing
Arnav, your
is my
screen is
screen
visible.
visible?
You can go on. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah. So why, what, and what about what? abroad, like where we are growing, how are projects moving, where are the growth areas, where is the money. But first of all, let me look at the profession of architecture for a brief second. I'm assuming that most of us are architects, and or at least some sort of we are engaged with design. Now, design is a very broad segment. Even in architecture, if I look at the traditional career of architecture, it was purely consulting, right? We used to work with a star architect, and only then, when the market diversified and there were more complex projects, that we started having different segments of the market like consulting, project management, planning services, graphics, even arts, academics to mention the important segment because we had questions on that. So the profession has been emerging and it is at a crossroads at the point because of the COVID situation and the way it's evolving that we were working as architects individually. Then we started collaborating. We had a multidisciplinary approach towards our projects. We started to be employed as under project managers. That was something new, and I experienced this in 2008 when I went there in the UK. The project steps that they said were the process was called novation, and they had design build projects, even with contractors now coming on board and employing architects. So that's a very new trend that we have started seeing. So the skill sets that architects have typically are sort of being diversified at the moment as we speak. Traditional architectural skills are not enough. And when we look at a career which is beyond 20, 30, 10 years from now, actually, let me tell you that the career changes for architects for every 7 years. 7 to 10 years, there is a transition. In my career, also, I observed that, and there are various stories we'll be able to guide you with what are the transitions that are being taken at the moment. For example, we are aware that traditional consulting is limited and very few emerging disciplines are there, like options are really limited, so we are looking to move abroad, diversify, etc. But if you look at the data revolution, the smart city revolution, and all the 3D prototyping new technologies that have come up, and especially the online space that has emerged over the last few months, it was already due, but the COVID has only exaggerated, accentuated the process and made it faster. So you see a little gamut of professions which are emerging from the traditional professions of architecture, and we should be in a position to take advantage of these skills as we move forward in a new country because these careers are already in place. In some of the countries that we want to go to, these are already in, like for example, energy modeling. We It's a specialized thing, but it's very commonplace in a tradition, in a mainstream practice in the US or for the UK, for example. So these are some of the future skills which you should look at when we talk about a global career in design. Now, talking about a global career in design, if I look at the life cycle of an architect, it's basically again broken up into segments of about 7, 8 years, and we have various experience levels and various tools to move abroad. Now, if I look at a student who is at a BArch level, education is his currency to go abroad because he can do a master's and go and settle abroad really early. I call this the early bird segment here. And then you have a clear 8 to 10 years to build up your career before you go to a more mid-level experience. At a early stage career where we have your skill as the currency, then you have working on production and design support, then it's a sweet spot because you have your education and you have the backup for that, you will get the credentials for that, but you also have a few years of experience so that you can score a few points when you go through an immigration system or even apply for a master's and go through an immigration system. That's a good way. You have some work experience maybe at a 3 to 5 year level, and also you have sort of a work experience. 1 second. And yeah, and what I was, yeah, at a mid level, that's really the challenging part. When you have about 8 to 15 years experience, then you have really the local knowledge. You are ingrained in the market, local knowledge. What the company who is employing you globally will look at your local knowledge. In case you don't know about local coordination, local consultancies, regulations, environmental regulations in that country, it's really difficult to move abroad at that point. So that's really a lean period in terms of moving abroad and career
I
abroad, I would
just,
say.
interrupt. So
However,
when you talk about local knowledge,
mm,
one of the most
mhm,
important barrier that we faced is having a local professional accreditation. For example, COA in our country, recognizes and doesn't
Hmm.
recognizes the degree of the other country, and it's vice versa. In UK, RIBA is there. In American Institute of Architects, so it's US has a different thing altogether. So how does that play in having a practice like between 8 to 15 years? Unlike India,
Hmm.
you need to spend some time getting this local registration, right? Yeah.
Right, right, right. So what happens is early on when you are coming into a global practice. For example, if you work with Foster's, you'll be working as an architectural assistant because you don't have the RIBA credentials. What happens in if you come in at an 8 to 15 years level, after 5 years you are expected to have a credential, the RIBA either 1, 2, or Part 3. So if you don't have that, you will be still 10 years experience, but you will be working as an architectural assistant instead of an architect or like a senior architect position. So that part is hindered. Same goes for environmental regulations. In India, we have GRIHA. In Australia, we have Green Star. In the UAE, we have something called it's a new system. It's Estidama. Then lead is there. So if you go to different countries, you will see there are various different local regulations. Specifications are different. After 10, 15 years, you are expected to know all the building specifications. If you don't know, go to a new country, then that's really a challenging thing because everything comes down and boils to your experience in that particular country. So it's difficult at that point. However, what happens after you cross that barrier, then what the company looks for you from you is an expertise. Instead of experience, there's a transition, it becomes expertise, and then you become an expert in transport systems. You become an expert in hospitals, and that's what they value for. You become design leaders and you take up roles in business development, you bring in new projects, people look at your credentials. So this transition is very tricky. It gives really a possibility of a quantum jump in your profession, either through a PR process, or you can also do like a PhD and go to a new country and settle down. So all those aspects are open at this stage because it's at a higher experience level. And what happens is typically the Western expats, for example, the British expats, they have the advantage of the passport. So what they do, they choose a profession and the stage of the project and an expertise, and they don't choose the country. There's a big distinction between that. And they go from one country to the other working on the same projects and same stages of the project. So it's become very easy because to them because of the passport. So at depending on the life cycle you are in as an architect of your profession, the currency of your career abroad is going to change. The skills that you require are going to change, and the modality of your transition is going to change. So, and you also require mentoring at this part. For example, for me, when I made this transition between the sweet spot, I went to the UK, and I had wonderful mentoring from a few of my seniors. So who told me that these are the ways you should apply, these are the colleges, and these are the expected gains out of this. So it becomes very important. Now, I'd like to take a moment here and probably look at what is your profile, like what do you want to do, where are you in this life cycle, and how do you see yourself? Like, are you someone who is going to do masters at that level, or you are going to look at PR and a PhD process? So I would look at a poll here,
Yeah.
Deveshi.
So we have
Deveshi, yeah, yeah. Can you initiate a
we
poll
have
probably
yes,
to understand what
right. We
what
have
what
a
is our
poll
audience
where
today?
they can actually share about their the preference for the country right now. So very quickly, I am sharing a poll with all of
Uh, uh,
you out there in WhatsApp and WhatsApp group. Just look at the WhatsApp group that we are in. All of you have come from there. And let me see if I can also put it on the chat. Yeah.
Actually, Devashi, you can also do something. You can also look at either they're going for a master's or a PhD level or a PR process.
Yeah.
What is the chosen
Sure.
mode of transfer? Because depending on that,
Correct.
the
Right.
lecture
Right.
and the skill
Okay.
set that you're going to
Not a
hone
problem.
is going to
So
be
I
different.
am putting, the poll. I'm just sharing with it in the comments. So everybody take a second and then go run through the poll. and let us know which country that you're aiming for. Yeah, let's quickly do that, right? Yeah. Uh, I'll just share this screen for the poll. So this poll is live, right? So it's showing like 50% of the audience wants to move to UK. Can everybody see the screen? So 50% of the audience wants to move to UK, and 22% wants to move to Australia. 11% wants to US. Okay, it's changing.
Actually, because of the current situation globally, I think US is like little out of bounds. So earlier you would say 50% definitely was US because of the bigger market there. But now because UK is going to offer residency after a few years, starting with a point-based system like Australia, probably that is a good choice. So the way to move to the UK is different from obviously from the way to move to the
Okay, so
US.
right. So I
The
think
credentials are different.
everybody says that Australia followed by Canada and UK, right? Yeah. So let me launch the other poll. Thank you so much, guys. We have 18 people sharing with me. Quickly, let me share this years of experience. How many years of experience do you have? Let us know. At the same about the audience. Yeah. I'm shared another Slido link so that I understand. Ashna, it's there. I think 18 people have answered. Just copy paste it and try your browser. You should be able to, understand. Okay, so around two are freshers. We have 60% of the audience who are freshers. 25, 38% 2 to 5, 10% is up to 10. So there's nobody beyond 15 plus years of experience. Okay, I think that answers your question, Arnab. So we have young people. Right,
Yeah, yeah. So
right.
probably we'll look at.
Brilliant. We'll
Mhm.
just wait for more, but that's what
Yes.
it looks like.
Mm.
Brilliant, brilliant. So we will resume your, slide. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, yeah. So that streamlines our work a bit because then we can focus on how education, like master's education, can help you with that. And probably we'll not discuss more about the mode how experienced architects, the
No
late
worries.
bloomers
We
can
can touch
do
on
it.
that also.
Not focus on
Yeah,
that
we are
today,
young
for
at
today
heart.
at
A lot of
least.
people young at heart. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
but
So
we'll
let's
focus
move on.
on.
Yeah. I'm think we're good.
Yeah. So the main question, why at all do you want to do this, is because of the money. Obviously, there is no second doubt about it, and also follows what the lifestyle. So based on these two decisions, and obviously the climate, if you know have any relatives, you have a wide array today. I would say in the global scenario of options that are available to you, where you can choose to move. Because since you are at an early phase in your career, you can go anywhere. I would say, and then you can also move from country to country depending on your suitability. If I look at it at a very like a very snapshot level, most of the countries which are North European countries, they are the highest paymasters, followed by US and New Zealand, Australia, I would say. In terms of salaries, these are the highest. Whereas if you look at savings, which is a cumulative process of your salary, the taxation, and the living expenses, the picture is not so clear. Whereas new areas of work might emerge. For example, Saudi Arabia, I know, is not a very favorite destination for students, but that's where you can save a lot because the living expenses are less. And we can work out these options with you based on your preferences. We can look at the taxation and all those detailed living expenses. So we can work out options, and basically you should also focus on your career, what you want to do in terms of architect, so what are the options, like the type of project that you have, and make those decisions. And the next thing that we generally look at when we may try to make this transition is where are the projects, where is the growth, and if you move with a plan of 5 to 10 years, at least you should give you that growth. Now, traditionally, what happened that US was the highest in terms of projects growth, and Asia was like lagging behind. So, but the movement, the transition has happened from Europe and the US to Asia, and China and partly India is the leaders in growth. So where is the growth in 2019? Just before COVID, if I look at the global scenario, I would see most of the work has shifted to actually Middle East. A lot of projects. China has slowed down a bit, and also India. A lot of work is there in Africa at the moment, and also Southeast Asia. So that's broadly the zone where the new work is. I'd like to say that the other markets are still going strong, but the boom is not there anymore. But if you look at like specific markets, Australia, for example, hasn't had a recession in 30 years. Australia, New Zealand. So that's hard, like a stable market for you. Now the situation completely
Arnav,
changes when you look at
if
COVID.
you can go back to the last
So,
slide.
mm,
Yeah.
mm,
So,
yeah.
yeah,
Do you have any
yeah.
questions
So we
here?
have
Any
a
of
lot of
us
people
have
who
any
are
questions here?
freshers who are in their final years. Vedrat and I
Mm,
think a lot of young people who are just completing their architecture. So looking at this map, like
mm,
none of us in India would think of going to Africa or what you're talking about. But that's a big number. Or like China is out of the question right now. Like so Kostav has worked in Hong Kong. So now we are not going to think about that. Even I've worked in the Guangzhou and the Singapore offices. Singapore is still safe, but we don't think of that right now. So looking at this chart, right,
mm.
what would
Yeah.
be the aspiring professionals, right? So whatever is happening right now in 5 years, if they want to go global or 5 years they want to establish themselves. So what is the minimum amount of
Mhm.
time one should spend in that country? So when you are talking about growth, they also need to grow, right?
So, okay.
So can you just talk
Mhm.
about that and
Mhm.
popular in terms of education? If we map the growth layer on the top of education, right? So nobody actually associates with Africa regarding higher education, okay? And the
Mhm.
UAE also is
Right, right, right,
is kind
right.
of upcoming. It's opening its universities. If you can talk a little about that.
Yeah, so MENA stands for Middle East and North Africa. I have to be clear here explicitly. So yes, we need to talk about it because when we talk about Africa, it's not a very happy situation. Let me go to the next slide.
Sure.
Probably I'll be able to discuss that in a better way. So this is the current global situation. Yeah. So what happens is basically the US and China are out of bounds because of the trade war, because of the immigration situation, and also because of our current problems with China. So we get sorted out, but it's not a very happy relationship. If you look at the student flows, it's not very popular among architects. So what it leaves us are these countries where we had traditionally been going, but they are all in decline at the moment because this is post-COVID situation. But we also see green spot. For example, Southeast Asia is also it's not declining at the moment. Vietnam, Indonesia, they have positive growth rates for the next few years. Africa has. Australia is sort of stable. UAE is sort of stable because of the projects in Saudi. But you have to realize something. That first is these projects which are done in Africa are not being designed in Africa. The offices are not in Africa. They are being probably designed in offices in Dubai, in Egypt, or in the UK, where the same companies have their main offices there, and they have their like a site office or a liaison office in these African countries. Same goes for Southeast Asia. Most of the work is being done through Singapore. So those are those global hubs where you have good education institutions and it makes sense to move there. For example, China has his work done from Hong Kong. A lot of it was done, but also Beijing and Shanghai. But Hong Kong is also a destination. So you have to look at these global flows of projects, materials, goods, and education and make your choices. And we can be with you in that journey. But overall, it looks like for the next few years, Africa is going to be like a big destination and followed by Southeast Asia in terms of local projects. But then you can work on them from different locations. You have to choose your office like very clear. It's a global office or it's a local office. There is a big distinction and the type of projects that they would pick up. And also very important thing which Deveshi mentioned, which I had actually missed out in the life cycle of an architect, is that architect generally has about 3 to 5 year gestation period in any country. When you go to a new country, you can't settle immediately. Even as a student, it takes some time, but also as a professional, because you need to break even and then make your money. So it takes at least 3 years. So have that horizon in mind, so that the country will be in peak for at least 3 to 5 years when you move there. Okay, so I'll just move on to the next slide. And basically, before handing out over to Kostav, I was just doing a visioning. If about 1.5 lakh students were going to the US pre-COVID, and these are the movement of international students from India to different countries. You see, US is there, Canada and Australia are the bigger chunks, but there are also people going to the UK, to France and Germany. So if these 1.5 1 and 1.5 lakh people are not going to the US, where would they be going? So probably there is a shift in student movement. And this poll is already done. Which country do you want to go to, Deveshi?
Yes, we did it. We did it. We did it. The country
Hello?
we did it. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So probably then looking
Hmm.
at these global situations, like what I want to say is that it's not a constant flow. The way the profession is changing every 5 to 7 is a transition in the economies which are going to boom, and based on your skill set and understanding and your subject and where you want to be, you have to change your expertise, your destination, and probably Kostov
Right.
is the best person to do that, because he is the person who has changed his location many times
Hmm.
over his career, like 15 years, over 15 years, he had seen many different. You can probably
Right.
move to
I'll
Costa.
do
You
that.
can take over
Just a quick
Costa.
like, information for everybody who is there. Mayuk and few people are asking questions here. So we'll take all the questions. Then we have we have given a link, Slido link, where everybody is putting up the question. So Mayuk and Priyanka and whoever has a question, we will take it at the end. We are almost like kind of there. So we would like to, have you share your question in the Slido link, and we will talk about that. Ishani, yes, we will talk about. We're going to give an overview. If you have any specific question on Europe, Ishani, just put it up on Slido, and we will do. So yes, Costa, while you're sharing, can I take 30 seconds and show your portfolio, or should we do it after you're done?
I can stop sharing,
Okay,
Deveshi.
okay.
You
So
can
just
show the
just just
portfolio.
keep your screen on. I'm just going to share Kostov's portfolio, and this time I am going to share it in reverse order. Okay, right, yeah. So, guys, ready for the portfolio? So, should I start? Yeah, just drop a bring it on. You are going to get in to see something which is not shared. What, like, what more than decades. So, do you want to see the portfolio of Kostov? Say, bring it on. BOI, 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 BOI. I'm sorry for the adverts which are coming. Right. Thank you. Okay. So as I shared that Kostav is somebody who is an artist at heart, and he is a very hardworking person in putting his creative energy in transforming it appropriate to different geographies. So he will be talking about his own work, but I'm going to start his portfolio from his sketch. So he's somebody who will doodle anywhere. He's amazing with watercolors. You can follow his Instagram also. So these are where some of how it portfolio kind of, it's in the initial work that it looks. It started. I'm just going the reverse order. So not always it's the initial work. Yeah, some of the India work. So he will explain how the transition kind of happens, but see how slowly it becomes minimalistic. This is India. This is India. This is Mumbai and Amity University, UAE. So it's already constructed, right, Arnav? This building, I think it's already done.
Yeah, I went there
Right.
last
Yep.
2 weeks back in Amity. Yeah.
Great. Yeah. Also, can you, like, while we're taking through it, like, your design the best. Can we, like, quickly take us through this? Can you come on mic?
Yeah, hi Debeshi. Hi,
I
Arunavu. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah, I think so. Yes,
Great.
right.
Yeah, well, thanks for sharing this portfolio. I'm really humbled here. So, what you're looking at the screen is, and I'd like to talk about that quickly a little bit later during the presentation. It's more about refining and having your projects and your role in the project clearly communicated, and that's where, especially in the professional world, really matters, and that's why it differentiates from the academic portfolio. And it's been a process. So as Deveshi was telling you, that it kind of evolves in a way over the years of experience and feedback you get from the professionals, which I'd love to share with you guys. And you kind of fine tune it over and over and curate the whole thing and tell your story. Depends on your audience. So I think
Costa,
that's it. That's what it's all
yeah,
about.
I'm just going to interrupt and ask a question. I'm just like, so in different countries, my personal experience has been the kind of project, like if I'm working in Southeast Asia, I would work on 15 projects maybe at the same time, while in India, it's
Mhm.
one third or less. So can you tell me, like, typically in a year, so all these projects, how much time do you spend? Is there a difference in working in India, like the time that you spend with one project, or in one year, how many projects that you do? Does that vary?
Yes, it does. Definitely, it's a good question, Deveshi. I guess it depends on few things. A, obviously, is the country and the kind of the practice there. So, like you said, it's especially in Asia and Middle East, it's pretty fast paced, and everybody wants to get things done very quickly. So the overall design cycle and the project cycle is much faster compared to the other countries. For example, like in US or Australia, things move generally much slower because there's a lot of emphasis put on the design to get it right, and the procedure and approvals, and then construction. I would say India is somewhere in between. This depends on the project again. So my experience has been kind of mixed there. So, but as a general rule of thumb, I'd say if you are more on the doing more feasibilities or early concept, and depends on the workload you have, you might end up doing more, like maybe 10 projects in a year, but very short term cycles. But some projects you might see here, like the really build projects, that do take obviously much longer time, and that will obviously go through a
And,
longer
and and I'm
involvement.
just curious to know, how about the award-winning projects? You have worked on a couple of award-winning projects, let's say.
Um,
Yeah, how about that?
well, sure. I think there was one. If you go the other way, there was the central. If you keep going to the forward, the other way around. So there's the. I was recently working in the one of the station, central station in Sydney. There's a big
Yeah,
metro infrastructure
that's
going up
fantastic.
there. It was a huge competition, and it was an international competition, working with other international companies and competing with them. I was at Uzbekistan at the time. Grimshaw was one of the competitor, and it was 14 weeks. And you wouldn't believe, like, the competition. It sounds like a competition, but you are actually designing everything at the same time, and you are actually even collaborating with consultants. And some of the things in terms of collaboration, I do really want to emphasize on that, which is one of the key skills. As a global architect, you really have to get on it as quick as possible. And also competitions are generally could be much more demanding. Depends on how premium the skill the project is, and how tough the competition is. So that's another thing to learn about.
Right. So, how many of you want your portfolio to look like this? And work on, award-winning competition. Just drop an I. Drop an I. I want to be. Everybody wants to be in Kaustav and Arnav's shoes, like, the shoe that takes you to places. So drop an I. Drop an I. Drop an I. If you're really feeling, the being inspired, you're feeling that fire. You want your portfolio to have those award winning projects. So everything starts with one step. So over to Kostap. So drop a hi if you really think okay, Vanuja. Yes, Akash. So everybody of each one of us were in our final year, right? Each one of us were in our uh, struggling, went through our struggle, went through the era of career design and competition. And then like Kostov is kind of junior, couple of years juniors, and we have become a community. We have helped each other, and that is how it happens. So career design is a team game. Like, okay, sometimes Kostov had mentioned, Arnav had mentioned, mentored me. Somebody else has mentored each other, but it always happens as a team. It's not an individual game, right? Yeah. So, who's going to do the screen share for the Arnav slides, for cost of slides? Can you bring it on? I'll do that. Yes, Santosh. Yes, Sandeep, Fayaz, Sanchita, Ishani, Akash. There are two Akash, Akash Kumar, and yeah, very good. So there are 31 of us watching, and only seven of you want. That's interesting. Only seven of you want this? I don't believe it. On a Sunday afternoon, you're giving your time and you're watching it. Get the energy on, get the action on. It's only you who can make you reach to the destination. We can only be the facilitators, right? Don't watch this video like watching a TV. Get into the action mode because while you are watching, your competitor is taking action. Right. Over to you, Costa.
All right. Thank you again. And so uh, I guess what I can say here that Arunavo and Deveshi has give you guys a really great overview of how to map a career across the world as your budding architects. And I guess they already touched upon some of the very few important points here. And I guess one of the few ones I would like to highlight here again that for all of us as architects or designers, as we grow in our career, it's very important to understand that change is the only constant. Honestly, in fact, I was reading a book recently about that by Ince Temple called You Incorporated. Highly recommend. It's about kind of talking about that yes, you do your graduation, you go abroad, you do another study there, and you learn something more, and then you enter the professional world. But your learning or upskilling never ends there, and you have to keep yourself updated and to become more and more relevant all the time as you grow in your career. And that's something I wanted to talk about. It's more of a personalized take of my journey and how I learned these things, sometimes the easy way and sometimes the hard way. And so to talk about that, back in 2007, this is my stage one of my journey where I graduated from Kolkata and did a bit of 1 year of working back in Kolkata in a firm. And then I decided to go to US for my master's at Penn State. And I guess, like all of you, the reason to go there is not only to study but also to have a career on top of that, right? That's the idea we all have, that you go get a degree and you plan a job or career from there. So for me, obviously, at that back in 2007, US is had been the the most desired location, and I was able to get a degree there. And then uh, interestingly enough, like you plan for something, and this is what I wanted to again put a lot of emphasis on, is that GFC happened. And yes, the dream of having a job in the US for a long term was pretty much nearly impossible. But at the same time, I had to also think about like where about I can get a job from there, what can I do as an architect now, I have a degree. So looking back there, some of the things, the key skills which I think really helped me to project myself as a really good architect to my potential employers are, other than my degree, I picked up some of the important topics or skills which are still very relevant, and I think that's going to be relevant in the upcoming years as well. One is basically your interest or knowledge in sustainability. So I learned a lot about sustainable design there, become a lead AP. And then the second one was picking up some relevant software skill. I think Deveshi mentioned about that a little ago. So I picked up Revit as a building information modeling tool, which was very new at the time. And I picked it up earlier just out of interest in my school, but then realized that really throughout my career, even till today, it is one of my key skills, and that always puts me ahead of most of other competition if you're looking for a new role or if you're trying to grow up in your career. So having those skills really mattered. Also, one quick one here is that yes, having the degree and the skills is important, but another good thing that happened is that once you go out there and you travel a little bit, for example, I went to Italy and Berlin for some of my theses and study tour and things like that. You really have your outlook really expanded. You really are talking to all the people around the world. You are working with them. You're learning from them, and so your world really opens up suddenly a lot. So that's something I guess was pretty important. If we move on to the next level or the next stage of my life, which is on the next slide. Arunavu, can you please move on to the next one? Can we go to the next one?
And you also had the international accreditations, right, Costa?
Is it not visible?
Yeah, it's visible.
Um,
Pranav, it's visible.
It's
yeah.
2013?
Yes, that's the one. So yes, so I did pick up, as I said, some of the accreditation on LEED as well, and then later on I became a AIA associate architect on the top of my Indian architecture registration. But again, it's very important, like as Deveshi mentioned earlier, that once you grow in your career, depends on your location and the kind of job you do, you may have to really become like a registered architect in that locations, and that becomes sometime a critical go or no go for employers to look at you. So looking at that, when I moved to Mumbai, that was in 2010 post my graduation and GFC, I worked for another US company called Canon Design. And what happened with them is that I was actually able to work with a broader team with the Canon Design offices, which are really globally dispersed. And again, the key was here to really learn my skills and get my experience in terms of collaboration, which is again another key skill to become successful working in big offices and big projects across the world. For example, I was working on a big project in India, but the design teams were, one is in Mumbai and another was in Los Angeles, and we had to work together. And that really, that kind of experience really helps you to understand like what it takes like to be a really true collaborative global player and how you can effectively communicate. And as you pick up some of these kind of skills, that really helps you move on to your career later on, like it did for me as well. So if I move on to the next stage, so I spent about 3 years there, and then I moved on to the next one where I was ready to take a bit more challenge and wanted to move out of India again and follow my dream. So this part was the unique challenge, which many of you may or may not have uh, probably kind of thought about in terms of how you go out of India and find a job. And like Arunav said, that yes, you can go as a through the education path where you get a degree and then you find a job around there, or through a PR path. But this one was the hard way, where you are in India with an Indian passport and you're actually looking for a job outside. And I literally had to go around and travel to some of these cities in Asia and in China to actually get an interview. So that's a different story. But the fun part was ultimately I landed up with a job in Hong Kong based on my skills and experience that I had in the last 4 years, as I showed you. Again, here, what I was saying is that in China, it was a very different culture. The kind of pace of work, as I mentioned before, is very fast, and you have to learn again different set of software skills, which is, for example, you have to learn new modeling tools like Rhino or Grasshopper, and also you pick up other relevant skills in terms of your visualization and graphic stuff, and you start to work with different people. So that learning never stops, so you have to keep adding and upskilling yourself, and that's what exactly happened there. um, I guess the other part was more about, as a global designer, I really picked up another part is that the diversity in culture. So that's something, if you do move on from one country to another country, you have to be cognizant and really flexible about, like, to understand the nuances of how different teams, they might be design teams in on paper, the same two design team can be very different working on a Shanghai office to a US office to an Australian office. So that is something really helps you to become more flexible and adaptable over the job market. So with that, I
I
would like
think
to move on to
also,
last one. Yeah, go
yes,
ahead.
I just like mention, I think that is a point which nobody talks about. How people, even like in countries which are following Mohammedanism, their point, if I correct me if I'm wrong, Arnav, they're like they would have something which is pointing towards the Mecca, or they would be respecting the religion and they'll be respecting the local culture, and it's different in different countries. So in Europe it's very different, right? The way the spaces and the the culture, the interactions that happen. So why when somebody says in your the job description relevant experience, okay, so it takes into account, do you know the people and the culture? Because being a spatial designer, we have to like design all the layers. So even if somebody knows a foreign language, knows a lot about that culture sitting in India, okay, especially we'll get into that detail, but the cultural part in your affinity to know a new culture, that's a very important indicator whether you are like curated to have this career abroad, or like you go to London and then you go to some place and you think about, we all three are Bengalis, think about Shandesh or fish, and you are not going to get that, like so can have some kind of a psychological, you need to be psychologically strong and prepared and culturally informed. So the question is, are you informed? Are you like aligned to before you move into the country to what is happening there culturally? Because anything from food habits, from travel habits, these are people habits. And as architects, we design for people. So do you know that? Right. So yeah,
Yeah, I think I can give you a bit of a brief on this, a little bit of my input on this, if I
Yeah,
may
please.
interject. Yeah, so what happened that I was part of this British Council initiative that for Commonwealth scholars, they have this process of onboarding before they actually move to the UK. Students actually move to the UK for master's or PhD studies. So you have to go there and give a lecture to students based on your own experience of living there. And they basically put a lot of stress on the cultural aspect, because it's a very different culture, and unless you are able to accommodate that, it's very difficult to go and obviously leave study and work there. So it's very important to get this right, I mean correct at the go. As an architect, we also design in different contexts. For example, very recently we were designing a project in Belarus. So we have basically had to go and study the entire history of Belarus, and working from a hot climate, working in a cold climate becomes a real challenge. So unless we are really sensitive about and open about learning new things every day and changing our understanding and learning and unlearning,
Yeah.
this is going to be
Very
tough.
true. So, Kaustav, let's wrap up and then you will open the question answer session. And we have a lot of questions. We have a lot of questions regarding work, right? Yeah. So, Kaustav, over to you.
Yeah, sure. I think that was a really good point, Aruna. And in fact, what I was going to talk about, and I can see, it's interestingly, there's a lot of interest about Australia, and I can tell a thing about too about that. Obviously, with my experience of last 5 years, talking about culture. Honestly, like I thought when I moved to Sydney in 5 years back, I thought, oh, I know a lot about global culture. I worked with so many countries. Yes, but then you move to somewhere down under, and then there was like a complete cultural shock. Like it's like, yes, it's an Western country, but it's completely different uh, in many ways from something like US, maybe a little closer to UK, but the lifestyle, the way people walk there, and the way you communicate with people, really, it was quite hard for me in the initial years to even to unlearn and learn again. So that's something we really have to understand. But also at the same time, I was able to rely on my previous experience back in Middle East. For example, I was there in Dubai for a month while I was working for a company in Sydney, working for one of the biggest Dubai Expo project, like a 1 kilometer long building there. And I was in the Dubai office for a month, and I was actually able to quite easily communicate because I really had that experience back there to work on that kind of culture beforehand. So yeah, I guess going back to the point is, I think two things I'd like to highlight is, one is that you have to plan in a integrated way with your education and your career and the pathway you want to choose based on where you are, and you have to see a bit, like Arnav said, like 5 to 7 years down the line. And also at the same time, you have to be prepared for change that can happen, like as you can see for us, like uh, GFCs or COVID or just economical oil price change. So you have to be agile and kind of always try to be to the top of your game and upskill yourself constantly, so that no matter what happens, you are able to move on to the next role quickly.
Brilliant. So, we have a lot of questions. So, let's move on to the questions. So, many of you have put it on Slido, and some of you have shared it, in the group.
Uh, Excuse me, Kostov had to discuss this, talk about the skill set
Yeah,
evolution
do
Um,
and
it.
portfolio
Yeah,
evolution.
yeah,
well,
do it.
Are we leaving that?
we
Yeah.
do. I mean, I guess
Or
we did talk about that
sure.
already during our discussion. This was more about to
Then
show the evolution of how my portfolio, it's a professional portfolio, again, it's different, kind of evolved throughout the year. It's hard to see in the screen, but generally speaking, as you could, it's more about how you define your content and how you simplify your content as a professional. And based on the learnings and the feedbacks from the interviews or working with other people, that it's been a kind of iterative process where you constantly crafting it and making it simpler and simpler. So it's just the content, your role in there, and the graphics and everything starts to become very minimal. The other thing what happened is about that, like how you start to also identify your skills and interest as you grow in your career. So that will give you, goes back to the point, like what do you want to be. You have been a design leader, you want to be a project manager, so you start to highlight those skills more and more. For me, it was more on the design side, so sketching and the way I do the design thinking process, those diagrams started becoming more and more important. And instead of having the end result, which could be nice CGI, yeah, you still put them, but it's more about showing the process and your thinking behind it. That's why the employers really want to know, like, why should they, hire you? What's the value you're going to add? So, and we can talk about that during our portfolio review process once we launch it.
Yes, we can do it in detail. So, as Simon Sinek says, everything starts with a why. So, those of you who don't know, Simon Sinek is one of the, top. His TED Talk is one of the top TED Talks in the world. Okay, so we have different questions. Okay, new people, some people have added. Uh, Please add to my question my desired. So can everybody see my screen? That my desired destination is news. That's not a question, Manish. Got it. So the question is, what is your opinion about doing masters in India itself and then trying to look for a job in other countries? Will it hamper the chance to bag jobs? Okay, whoever has asked it, can you add bag jobs in other countries? That's what we are assuming, right? Yeah. So Arnav and Kaustav, like, feel free to answer. It would be great if you just add your name. And Manish, I didn't get the question. I understood the two destinations, but yeah, right. So,
Um,
guys, yeah.
Well,
Well, I
yeah,
guess
Kostav, go,
we can
go ahead.
both contribute to that based on the experience. I think it goes back to the point which country you are trying to go and what kind of job. So that will really determine what you're looking for. For example, like we said earlier, that if you are looking for a job in the US for an Indian passport holder, you have to get a H-1B visa, which and you have to find a employer who will basically sponsor you for that visa and things like that. So that is a very costly and very prohibitive process today. So it is difficult. But for example, other countries where like say Middle East or Hong Kong or Singapore, where you could definitely go and get a job and apply directly there. I think that would be much easier process in that way. So, and also the PR process, like we said in Australia and Canada, where you can just get the immigration done and then land a job once you're there. I guess I don't think going back to the point of having a master's in India doesn't really affect you, because I think Arunabhu also has some experience in that. So in today's world, I guess the master's degrees in India are getting more and more recognized. So it boils down to you becoming very focused on where do you want to go and what kind of skills that you need to get the job there.
I'll just add on to this, something which everybody says it's relevant stream. So if your master's in India is aligned to what you're going to do abroad, is aligned to the projects that you are going to do, then it's absolutely fine. Anything which is in non-alignment is a visa no-no, because they are not able to segregate the skill. Okay, and they have a skill shortage list, right? So if you're able to demonstrate that, I have been constantly working and grooming on this field, it's like they prefer specialization relevance more. So if that is there, then or it builds on, right? You have done something general and then you're getting super specialized, or it's builds on, then both of them adds on to it, doesn't actually. Yeah. So Manish will look into the question, not a problem. Vedra, yeah.
Yeah, a bit, like a little bit on this,
Job in
basically
UAE
drawing from
makes
both of
sense,
your
Arnav, for you. How
experiences
can I
and
get a
also
job
what
in
I've seen.
UAE? How can I get job without masters?
See, there are two type of places. One which has specific entry regulations, and one which don't have specific entry regulations. A country with a PR process, or a skill shortage list, or a sponsorship system. Generally, not leave alone sponsorship system. The PR process and the skill shortage list are countries where it is a little bit difficult getting a job from outside, and especially sitting in India. What you require there is a degree which is like a global degree, it's better. Or else you need to know the people there, either your seniors or you have done training there where you have known people and can go through them. I have known people who have done this too, like gone through seniors. Especially IITs are very good in that way. They have a big alumni in the US. And also, if you want to go to Europe, you have to probably do a training there and go. If you have some seniors, they will get you something. You have to know somebody there, and then it will happen. Where there are no processes in place and it's a sponsorship system like Middle East, etc., Hong Kong and Singapore. My friends have gone there after doing a master's, and it is not very easy, but you have to like fix after 50, 60 applications, you will get 5 to 6 interviews and you might end up with a job. But always
Yeah,
best to
that's
go there and
true.
give
And
an
then,
interview.
Yeah.
hmm. And then, so the thing which happens is that since the economy that we're in is in it's constant change. It's very important to be in touch with the community that can inform you accurately. Got it? So what we're doing right now, we are a community where a lot of people have the similar thing, similar problem. and we might be able to, like, give you the answers. And we were also mentored. So the community process in terms of getting the reference, getting the information is very important. Let's move on to the other question. I have a couple of UAE questions. We'll take it together. Can I get a job in UAE? Can I get job opportunities abroad without a master's degree? Let's take all the UAE questions together. I have done B Arch from, there were some UAE questions. Okay, yep. So Arnav, you're the best person to,
So what is
get a
specifically the
job in
question
UAE.
regarding UAE? So there are a few ways to get a job in the UAE. The easiest way is to like people generally who are coming from India, they either take through agency, come through an agency, or they have direct recruitment. This is pretty standard. If you come through an agency, you will get a job. You will not get a job immediately. What these agencies like typically tell you that you can come here. They will give you the visa, place to stay, and your movements, etc., will be like generally sure. You will be sure about them for 3 months. Within those 3 months, you have to get a job, and then you will get a local sponsored visa. Generally, the job that you get in this way is not a very good job. It's not a high paying job, and often after a few months you will be changing it anyways, after 6 months,
Yeah.
1 year,
So these, in
because in
any
UAE
country
you
that you
can
go,
change
these are
jobs.
mostly like, I don't know, survival jobs.
But if you go to other Middle East countries, you can't change jobs very easily. For example, Saudi, you have to take NOC, Qatar, you have to take NOC. Though things are changing, it's not Oman, you have to take NOC. It's not very easy to
Okay.
change jobs. In the UAE, it's very easy to change jobs.
And I'm sorry
Then,
interrupting you.
and if
Another
you
question from
like,
Adil Saifi. What is the scope of BIM in Dubai? Can I get a job easily if I know the BIM software? Yep.
BIM is very like useful in Dubai because most of the jobs with let me put it this way, without BIM you'll difficult to get an architectural
Actually,
job in the
yeah,
UAE.
it's a very good point.
So
I would
that
like to
is
add on
very
to
important.
that, especially if you are looking in a job. In most of the countries, you need to have some knowledge of some kind of beam platform, either it's a Revit or MicroStation, depends on where you're going. It's becoming almost like a like what is to call like AutoCAD skills before in back in our days. So if you don't know that, it instantly puts you in a back seat. So it's kind of universal these days.
Couple of questions. How,
Yeah. Mostly the European market. For example, I myself learned MicroStation in BDP when I went there in Bristol, and also Beam I learned in the same office when we started working in India because India MicroStation was not being used. So
so I think
Yeah.
that
these
also
two are very
answers the
important.
question of Akash Chaturvedi, who said, share the brief details of software and skill certifications needed to get a good opportunity abroad. So the skills we have,
Yeah.
certification, we can just touch on. Can you just add on some certifications? Like we know it, but then,
Well,
yeah.
I guess you can easily there some of the obviously there in India there's a lot of I mean Autodesk itself they run a lot of certification course. They are pretty simple and easy to do, and you can do it yourself. So if you're planning for a career in US, Australia, or Middle East or China, I think Revit would be the one you would like to have, and you can get a Revit certification, something they call like a Revit certified professional. You just take an exam and you can just put that as your one of your certification, and there are different levels for that. But it's also good if you are able to have some professional experience, depends on where you work, or if you're able to show that some kind of project or educational experience where you have used that program to solve a problem or to produce a design or document, so that adds up as well. um,
So,
uh,
yep.
yeah.
So,
This is also specific on the thing that they want to go for. Like for example, for architects, definitely Revit is very important. For planning professions, you will require GIS is very useful here because most of the companies nowadays, even in India, are asking for GIS. So it also depends on the
The other
like
two
your
dead
focus, what
areas
you want
are
to.
what one of already mentioned is that having energy analysis programs. So if you are into the sustainable design, energy analysis, that kind of domain, you want to extend your skills there. So you can get few software skills there and get certified. In terms of 3D modeling, globally speaking, again, it varies, but generally speaking, Rhino, SketchUp, these and ArchiCAD maybe. These are some of the tools that you may have to learn. Depends on where you land with.
I have noticed something that these days in the Middle East, people are not asking for 3D
Yeah,
Max from architects anymore because they are looking for their just
yeah.
become more
3D Max is
specialized
pretty
for
much
renderers.
obsolete. Like it
I
doesn't
have an
really.
That
interesting
is,
question here. Akash is saying LinkedIn learning certificates are valid or not?
they will like a certificate is a credential. Whatever they are saying that you know this, as long as the body which is giving you the certificate
Okay,
does
so
credit,
I'll
it
take a
will be
different
valid.
take, Akash. Akash, so LinkedIn is a general platform. Architect is a professional, specific professional platform. So anybody who has got it from the professional, body will have a higher, edge above LinkedIn, right? And if you want to use LinkedIn, you can do another session where, how to leverage LinkedIn to get a job. Okay, let's move on. Like we have a lot of question and hello, Pradeep Tada. So Pradeep Tada is a very, very senior architect. He's worked globally and I had the opportunity to work with him. So welcome. Thank you so much for being here. A very senior architect, ex-IIT and also a global practitioner. So yeah, he's our senior. So that's a part of community. So Pradeep Tada is watching us. Yeah, Bhanujan, couple of questions on study abroad. Okay, so Mayuk has a question which is very specific. He says that he doesn't have the permit to work and applying jobs in the portal worth it. It's absolutely worth it. But do you want to address Arnav the permit to work question? MS form Edinburgh.
I didn't get the question
Screen.
completely. Can
I
you
did
repeat
MS from
again, please?
Edinburgh, but UK wants local architect or permit to.
Okay, okay,
How do you go about it?
okay.
Okay.
Uh,
Nice job on the portal, worth it.
uh.
Yeah. So it'll go.
So when did you do the MS? Are you in the
Mayuk
UK now or you
Ghosh,
have
are you there
exited?
in the session? Uh, specific to
So if you have done it recently and you have a duration left in your visa, then you can try for a work directly. But generally, like RIBA accreditation is required. But without RIBA accreditation, what you'll get is not an architect role. It is like what I mentioned, like an architectural assistantship, as far as my knowledge goes there. So after you complete your RIBA accreditations, then you will start getting a more
Mayuk is
like a
not
formal, a
in the
better
UK
role.
right now, so he was there
Uh, pa-
last year. Ah.
then you have to initiate this process. What I have seen, like colleges have, if they are ARB registered, then you can go there and appear for those degrees, come back, and when you finish your accreditation, you can apply from India even.
Right.
That will improve your chances. But this permit to work, you wait. I
Yes.
would suggest you wait for 1 or 2 years because next year UK is going to implement this PR system, in which you can score points and directly go there. You will be at par with the rest of the EU people, and from here you will get a first a PR,
It's very
and then they will be
specific,
able to
and
give you
we
permit.
have some consultants on board who take care of the visa and for architects on the part. So we can put you in touch with them where he can actually assist you. It's doable, right? But we are not taking care of the visa part, right? So how it can be done? It and the
Before we take one question, Devesh, if you have finished, then I want to add something which is
let's take
related to
the
the
questions.
skills thing.
A lot of people are
What sort
waiting.
of skills you have,
Bhanuja, a
right?
lot of let's take the questions maybe. Yep. And then like we can wrap up. It's already like we have crossed the time. Right. So how would you put light on the scholarships that are available for students who wants to do masters in US and Australia? It's a broad question, but yeah, quickly again in terms of scholarships. Yeah, Arnav, that's your
See, scholarships. You'll get both. There are various types of scholarships, and for different countries, the generic things are same. Like they just still stay generic, but it changes from country to country, from year to year, from discipline to discipline. So considering architecture, so if you say US, you can get two types, very specific, three types probably. Something which is fully sponsored, you're going and coming back, stay there. The education itself, something for example, a Fulbright or like a friend of ours, the Kostov got the scholarship. It's a fully sponsored scholarship. All your
in
entire
lack.
study is paid
He
for.
got
You can
in lack also.
also get
Yeah.
in lakhs, yeah. Unilags. And also you can get if you go there and start working, you can work your way through. Basically, you can through the college you can get work, or you can also get bursaries, which is the third type, which is a part semester off from your fees. Probably, actually, Kaustav is a better person to answer this because Kaustav has more experience on the US
Sure. I guess, well, though
studies.
my information may be a little bit dated, but I can tell my experience. Yes. I'd say what Purnava said is correct. So there are scholarship that's coming out of the universities, and that can vary a lot. For example, it depends on what kind of like university. If it's a public university, then the scholarships could be more and the fees can be less, which happened with me at Penn State because it's a public university, so I was fully covered. But I also got into a private university, for example, University of Southern California or Illinois Institute of Technology. Both of them are really good school, but they're private and the fees are pretty high, and the scholarship they offered was pretty low. So you have to understand that gap. Few of my other classmates went to MIT and Harvard, and some of these big schools scholarships are almost non-existent. But what they provide you some kind of a student loan, which is a really low interest student loan, and you can pay over a very long time as you graduate, and so it's kind of scholarship, but you have to pay it back. And then obviously in India you have few other private organizations that used to provide you scholarships, for example, Lax and Tata. So
They,
they are there.
they,
So there are a number
yeah.
of different pathways, definitely.
So long story short, yeah,
No, there is one more point here. You
right,
get teaching
yeah, yeah.
assistantships in
Yes,
the
So
US,
Anish,
that's
we
which you
have
true.
to
don't
move
get in
faster.
Europe.
We have a lot of
That's
questions. So, anybody regarding the scholarship, okay, there are many criterias. But first of all, I'll give you an urgent information. The scholarship time is starting right now. It's going to end by December. Okay. So,
Mhm.
like, you have to get through the admission and everything right now.
this is for
Yeah.
next year. This is
Yeah,
for
this
next
year is
year.
already done. It's for
This
next
is
year.
not for
Anything which is
this year, it's for
happening
next year.
next year. Okay. So the list of the scholarships, and maybe we can, so scholarship is a big thing altogether. But yeah, time is now. So we can have like a, Commonwealth Shared, Chevening, Fulbright, INLACS. These are popular general scholarships which are given. That's number one to summarize. Number two is that you can get some bursaries which are local to the colleges. So you have to look into the colleges. Number three is that you can also get some teaching assistance. Number four, if you're working on any project, so it is to PhD actually, people who are working on these projects, these kind of things happen. And the most important part, take a loan and you go. So yeah, in a nutshell. So we have question. Yeah, yeah. Let's take questions
Yeah,
in terms of people who want to work. So Manisha said, done by Manish, you have like almost how many years of experience do you have? We are from India. He's an HOD in a college in Mumbai, and he wants to work in, I think, countries outside India. He mentioned the countries later on. Which country? Sorry, lost Manish. He said, I think, yeah, New Zealand or Europe or South Africa. All three are very different regions. So he's asking about his job
okay.
opportunity
So,
there. Yeah, job.
so is it a
How can
job
I join
or
as a
work?
professor?
Because they are
Professor.
very specific things. Professor, what I've noticed these days, because we have had succession of recessions, so PhD is a desired, at least it's a required criteria at the moment for any permanent teaching roles at the moment outside India. So I'm assuming since he's HOD, he might have a PhD, probably should have a PhD, so that is taken care of. And then the next thing is probably if you can I've not really done this process, so I can't say with a lot of confidence, but getting something which is like a
Yes, that's
shared
what, yeah.
project with them
So
might
he
help.
doesn't mention his PhD. Okay. So what he can do is that he can go for a PhD. He can
Without
go for a
it, it is
funded
not possible.
PhD. In the UK, it's there for sure. But again, like, the money is taken from every project. New Zealand, can you throw some light? Like, funded PhDs, cost of New
This,
Zealand?
yeah.
How is it in New Zealand?
Probably you should take this
Hello.
question
Yeah,
because
sorry, I was
Yeah,
on mute.
I'm
I
not.
didn't realize. Yeah,
not a
so on
problem.
New
Any
Zealand,
funded PhD in New Zealand? Because
yeah,
New
so
Zealand and Australia, the immigration is, there is a subtle difference.
yes, but at the same time, they're quite similar, honestly. So I
Yeah.
can, what I would suggest, I cannot really comment on the specifics of the university related
Mm,
job. I think you have to take Arunava's advice on that. But in terms
mm,
of pathway, I can suggest that New Zealand has a very similar PR, permanent residency program, like Australia. So, and it might be easier for you to actually apply for a PR based on your experience and skills first. And then once you get that, you move there and then you find a job or your career in the universities there. The reason I'm saying this is that today's date, actually, especially post COVID, and what I'm seeing in the most in the professional world, and the education industry is also quite hit because of the lack of international students with the travel restrictions, which will
true.
change. But most of the employers are really interested to learn about your employment, your immigration status. So it has the attitude has hardened a bit. Might be a little bit
Right.
more easier in the education side, but it's better to get your immigration sorted, and that's the pathway. Or you can get an Australian PR as well, and Australian peers are allowed to work in New Zealand as well with their PR. So it kind
Yes,
of
yeah,
works together.
that's yeah. I think that's very relevant. So give your IELTS examination, get your academic credentials done, and start applying for
Yeah,
a PR, right? Okay,
yeah.
so we just have to close, like, maybe in another 10 minutes. We have already, gone beyond our timeline. We'll just take some key questions for freshers. What salaries offered in other countries? I think Arnav, you kind of shared over there. So in terms of if, yeah.
I shared a broad. I did share that you have to other countries very generic. So at least if you know
Yeah,
the region, then we can answer. The best region is obviously, like I mentioned, is the North European countries where where the salaries are very high and the living costs are high, but
tax
then
is there.
again,
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So
I was
quite
gonna
a
say
bit.
yeah,
that.
yeah.
What
So
I was
salary
shared.
calculation, yes, salary
Taxes are
calculation. If you want to know, so there are some very specific questions. So people who have asked that, you can actually book.
we can help you with that, but you have to be
Section,
specific
these
about
two,
your
because
status.
it has to
Your
be done in with pen and paper and calculation and the geography, right? Overall, we can say it is proportional to your. There are two criteria: the currency, and the second thing is going to be the tax percentage of taxation. And
And the living
right,
cost, yes.
right.
living cost,
So,
living cost.
Anonymous, I don't know who you asked, so you can, like, ping in the admin and book a mentoring session with them to understand that. How to get fired in a firm in other country without doing masters? What are the key skills currently looked up in a resume? Yeah,
So I think we
without
did
doing
touch on that a
masters.
little bit already in terms of
Yeah,
software
that's
or
time.
specific
Uh,
skills.
I think there were similar questions which Vedrut also asked. Like, I'm a fresher.
Yeah, I just want to
Sure.
touch upon add a
So
dimension
the
to this. Yeah,
freshers.
go
So a
ahead,
lot of
Devesh,
people
then
are
I'll
asking, I
just
don't want to do a master's, I want to get into a job. So many people have asked, I don't have the name, but it's kind of that space. I don't want to go abroad with a master's. What do I do? Is there a way out? And they are all
Mm.
freshers. Yeah.
I think my suggestion is in this current scenario, this will work out. I'm assuming that you don't know anybody outside. You can, like, they won't sponsor you directly, and you can work on somebody else's sponsorship. That being said, there are your choice is limited if you don't want to take this education route. That is mainly to the Asian countries, I would say, and also the African countries, where they don't have a PR system in place, and they will
Yeah.
easily take you.
What my suggestion would be, like, do see, for freshers, no, everybody has to be taught. So in a foreign country, nobody is going to spend that effort on you. So at least learn the tricks in India. So you just can't
Yeah.
go abroad, without knowing anything, being naive to the entire, the profession altogether. It's not a good idea. What people do is that
It's not a good
whoever
idea. Yeah.
freshers and want to go abroad, either you apply for a 1 year course, okay, and it takes 1 year to have that process started. Like, if you're starting right now after this seminar and get in touch with us, and we can help you with that, you will reach next year. So this 1 year
Well, there is,
experience is going
yeah,
to add on to it. Okay,
yeah,
maybe you
I
do 1 year
agree.
course or a 2 years course, whatever that you do. So this 3 years, after these 3 years, you land up in first job, and that is a with a relevant degree and in a relevant country, and you do internship. So
Well, there, yeah,
from a recruiter's point of view, in your resume, the most important word is relevant. Relevant experience in terms of skills, in terms of language, in terms of your your credits. So if nothing is relevant, then it kind of rules out apart from your visa criterias, right? Yep.
See what happens when you go without a local degree or relevant experience, credible experience. What happens that the employer knows that you don't have these two. Then what comes up is exploitation, which I have seen a lot in the Middle East. Basically, people who come who are youngsters, direct recruitment from India, they are paid very less salary, whereas the same person with a Western degree gets a much higher salary at the entry level. So
well,
this
Right.
is not a
yeah.
very
I
And
just wanted
suggested
to add
route, I
on to
would say. If
that
you
a
want to
little
do it,
bit.
you
I
can
mean,
do it.
yes, I totally agree with what Devesh and Aruna was saying, that you have to have relevance or skills or education or something that will put you in forward. But if I mean, thinking aloud, there's a possible one alternative way is that where you do not really want to do a master's, but then you go with the relevance route. And in India, you could try to find uh, working for some of the companies or firms who are more internationally established, and there are quite a few in India across different cities, and then you get the experience
yes,
there,
that's true.
and
Right. Yeah.
that
That's actually
increase
my
your
experience.
network.
Yeah. I sitting
Yes,
in
yeah, it's
Gurgaon
a
have
very good
worked in
point.
Southeast Asia,
Yes,
and
Very good point.
exactly.
I
Like for
exactly had the
example,
same
yeah,
experience. Thanks for actually reminding that.
yeah.
Right. So
So
yeah,
that
there are
can also work
organizations.
out. Yeah,
Yep. Yep.
Yeah,
So
what
that's a
happens?
good way.
What happens in my previous office? This happened a lot in BDP because it's a British practice, and they have lean periods in the UK. So whenever there is a lean period, generally they send
yeah,
staff from here, from the Delhi office. They used to send, and they used to work for a month or so and come
yeah.
back.
But
But
you
what
But it's not
enjoy
a
happens? You
permanent
experience.
or
can
long
Yeah.
you
term.
add that to your
The same
resume,
happens.
and you can
Right.
show that I worked there. Like
Right.
for example, I
Yeah.
worked in New York for a month, just like that, and then it suddenly gets the employer's attention, and that could work.
Okay. So we have more questions coming up, and yep. STEM program, pathway program, courses. So yeah, these are very specific questions. So any pathway program is good. Masters really necessary. Simple architectural firm. There's nothing called simple. Somebody asked for a dream job. So see, the thing is that I feel at a fresher level, you need to define. So we all were very clear about what we don't want to do and what we want to do. Okay, so make it a specific, measurable. And does company hire freshers from BARC in Singapore? MARC, yes, they do. BARC, again, it's difficult unless you are there. We have friends who have worked in MARC in Singapore, right? Yeah, I think Jalal's question is regarding landing a job in Germany. Yeah.
This happens. Deveshi, VR
Mm.
direct to Singapore does
Yeah.
happen. I have seen that happening. In fact, one of my friends who studied with me in SBA attempted that, and he wanted to do it, but he
It,
Yeah.
ultimately
it
joined
boils
with
down to
us in
the
Master.
situation of the
But it's
economy
done
and the
from
job market there. So
Exactly.
those play a lot of big
Exactly.
role.
right.
I understand that.
You need to know somebody there. I think for this specifically, you need to know somebody
Yes,
there.
right. So, yeah, so a lot of things are dependent on the time. It's 2020 or 2006. So, so things are not static. Okay, so when you have to get to an answer, you need to have all these criterias in your mind, whether you're choosing an in university or job, and how it has to be shown in your resume. And at this time, like we speak, things are happening. It's not that things are coming to a stop, right? So we have to actually close this session, and we have still a lot of people coming up with this question. uh, I have a suggestion. I have a suggestion because so like it's pretty late in in Australia. So we are going to share a last poll just to know, like how we can continue doing this work with you, helping you all. And although, like Arnav and mm, cost of have limited time, but they might, give some time to us to share with all of you. They can have some mentoring hours, and we can discuss in what format it would be. So I've just given to Slido live polls, right? Yeah. Mm, right. So yeah. So, how do you want? What is that you need? Let me just quickly understand from this group. Yeah, there is a diverse need. So, just quickly, let's take this poll and tell me what is the thing that you need. Pasted so many links, right? Yeah, I've shared it in the WhatsApp group. People who are there in the WhatsApp group can do it from there. Let me also share it on. Facebook Live, and let me know like this is useful or not.
I
Yeah.
think Deveshi,
So yeah, I
something,
know while they're answering.
I think a
Yes.
recurring question that I'm seeing here in the screen is that a lot of people
Let's
want
see.
to go
Yeah.
work abroad, but
Hmm.
without taking the academic.
Let's see. Let's see.
I
Let's see.
think
So
this is
hundred
a, I
percent.
think, common
Okay, there's
thing
one
that's
person who
emerging.
has given needs guidance on work abroad. Yeah. Need portfolio review. 67% people need portfolio review. Okay, got it. We just wanted to know that. We didn't want to assume. Yeah. Cool. And 40% needs study abroad and portfolio review, 50% needs working abroad. CV and resume review, okay. Yeah, all of you need to give some kind of a GRE, GRE or IELTS or language test, those of you don't know. And also get your academic credentials done, that's a part of your visa process. Others, 14%, I don't know. Okay, right. So only 8 people have answered so far. What about rest? What about rest? Okay, cool. I got it. So the way what we can actually do this is we have taken out some time from Arnav and Kostov. So I have their calendar with me, and you can actually, drop in your email ID in the WhatsApp group or in this, the Facebook live that we have. So what we have is that they can have like curated small session, not in a big group, a small session with work abroad. And before that, you need to be prepared. Like we need not spend the time in sharing what is that you've done. So you need to have your resumes, visas, everything we send up beforehand, so that the coaching only happens during that time, right? Work abroad, having your resume and your portfolio, whatever is existing, that done. And what is the money that you want to earn, what is the pathway that you want to earn. For example, Manish has a case clearly, and we can talk about it. Portfolio review, yes. So whatever year that you are in, and whichever, like academic portfolio is different, professional portfolio is different. So drop in your email ID so that we can get back to you, and you can block time for mentoring. See, they are like Arnav and Kaustav are foreign professionals. So these sessions will be chargeable. We will be charging, having a nominal price. But I just, before doing that, I want to know, like, what is that people are asking, because it has to be relevant for both you and them. SOP review, so statement of purpose review, especially somebody is going to a good university, or don't come with any clue. We can give you a structure to it, and then we review it. And these sessions will be for mainly coaching you, right? Yeah, it can happen individually or in small groups. We'll take care of that. SOP review. Anybody who needs SOP review, just can you add on, like, what is that you need? Mentoring to work abroad. So, Bhanuja, what is that you need? Just add that. Mentoring to work abroad, like, SOP review, portfolio review, add on to that. Fine. Then study abroad, how, where, and why. So typically, there's a standard process for that. What happens is that there's a counselor who will be getting onto a one-on-one call, fine, and will give you a list of the top universities according to the country, according to your score. and then we'll give you the list, the what is the cost of it. That's not done by kind of team of us. There's an external agent who is going to do that, and also we'll tell you the the nitty gritty of the process, the visa and everything, right? So that is done again. Like you have to share the documents for that. That's not a mentoring session, but the counselor will call you, give you that list in Excel. IELTS training, like you if you're going to UK, Canada, Australia, again, to complete the list of your application, IELTS, it's a language training, is must, right? So that's something, if you are thinking, and the score is valid for 2 years. So even if you're thinking of going in later on, and if you have some time in COVID, you should do it right away, get that through. And WhatsApp any query, like, so you have our admin's number, you are part of the WhatsApp team. So you can, WhatsApp the query, right? Yeah. So Rahul, I don't know which your query is regarding what, right? Devrat, we don't know what. Tanish, don't know what. So you have to share what is that you need. Okay, what is that you need, right? Yeah. So share it with us, and I'll also share, this print screen into the group, and yeah, I think we are good. So I'll just close the session. And if you really liked, the mentoring which was done by our mentors, go ahead and recommend them. So the link is being shared for the mentors. So I'm sharing with you one more time. Go ahead and share. Recommend them. Got it, Anuja. Right. Great. So anything else, you guys want to share? Costa, Arnav, on a closing note?
I mean, it was great. Thank you, Deveshi. It was great listening all to these questions, because we tend to come to know that what is the students what they're looking for. And also, I want to say one thing relating to the skills, that skills are good and you need to have them for migration, because you need to show your value. But at the same time, uh, you have to look at design also. As an architect, while you are moving abroad, one is a good lifestyle, but sometimes you also have this aspiration to do good design. If you focus too much on skills, and that is what only shows up in your CV, then the person will only see that and only look at you as a draftsman. So don't get into the trap. So you have to be a designer, and the skills will support you. So always when you present yourself, make your CV and portfolio, make sure that you show your design skills, and then skills, the software skills are only supporting it. That is, I think, because I did couldn't mention it during the presentation. Skills are good, but they should not be like a cannibalistic.
Yeah,
Right.
it's a very good
Yes.
point, Arnavo. I
Mm.
totally agree with that, and it becomes more and more evident as we grow in our career. I just wanted to add one more thing here is that yes, that for all of us, it is important to get a job and earn good money and have a good lifestyle. No, who doesn't want that? That's really true. But I also said that we should you should have the focus more on actually what you love to do and how you want to have your career shape up with that, and you need to be happy doing what you're doing at the end of the day for every day in your life. And the sooner you find that, it will be easier for you to find the right pathway and get the right skills and the right experience, and all the other things that will basically just follow, like the job and the lifestyle and the money. So for me, I would say that's my little suggestion here, that focus on what you love to do, and then focus on how you can channel that to a successful career.
Right. So on that positive note, so we are going to say bye. It was almost like lovely 2 hours. Time flies, and we still have a lot to share. So see you soon. And those of you who have not dropped your email ID, please drop it, and we will get back to you. Thank you so much. Be brilliant.